Sam, 50 components, and from these 50 components, there are a few that are necessary to build the bearing structure, right? And it's a very important component of the rotary table.
Of course, as we mentioned earlier, the bearing system is one of the most important factors when it comes to the DD rotary table. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and I think you've got something prepared for us to talk a little bit more in depth about the bearing.
Absolutely, we got a few things we want to show you.
Okay.
And yeah.
So let's do it.
Let's take a look.
Okay. So Sam, the bearing system, take it away.
Yes, well, speaking of which, the bearing system located in the front area of the DD rotary table and behind the clamping system.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Now, when we're talking about bearing systems, I would assume there are different kinds of...
Actually, there are a lot of types, yes.
Okay.
But today we're going to mention like three types because we're going to speed it up today.
Right.
So let's see table 4.
All right, okay. 3 types?
Yes, as our audience see here, we have the table roller type here and the cross roller and the axial radial.
All right, and you just mentioned your customers, so me as a customer, what kind of considerations do I have to make when choosing the bearing type?
Well, any customer will first consider the price.
Right.
So yes,
the
so
budget,
pricing is the first factor here. Then comes the quality, the rigidity. Then comes the stalling space.
Okay, and how do they differ?
Let's start with the table roller pair. It needs more space because it's assembled back to back with a spacer between them. So obviously it has a low rigidity, and the price is low as well.
Okay, so this is like the cheaper variant.
Yes, well, if you want to mention, yes, it's cheaper between those 3 types.
Okay, then the cross roller?
Yes, the cross roller type, as our audience see, needs less space to install.
All right.
Although it had the same rigidity as the tapered roller ones. But the price is higher a little bit.
Okay, higher than the tapered roller pair type.
And the last one, finally we have the axial radial one. It has the best rigidity, and of course it costs much more than the other 2 types.
All right. Now, of course, I mean, the main factor here is for many potential customers is their budget, obviously.
Absolutely,
but
yes.
If we are talking about direct drive rotary table, which of these bearings is most suitable, you think? I mean, probably the high rigidity one?
Well, of course, at Soul Power here, the most important thing when we manufacture any product is quality. So back to your question, of course, axial and radial type, it's more suitable for
if it's within the budget.
Absolutely. I mean, it still depends on the customer too. We still use other brands, other globally well-known brands such as INA and Myonic.
All right, all right.
A few years ago, after an intensive quality control inspections and rigidity testing, we decided to use our own, because in the past we used to use just those well-known branded. But as you know, and our audience know, we all want the best price and of course the highest quality we can get. So we now manufacture here at Soul Power.
And you mentioned earlier you invested heavily in some equipment, like manufacturing equipment, grinding machines,
CNC, CNC equipment,
inspection
machines,
equipment,
yes.
And that's why you have the capability to manufacture bearings yourself.
Totally, yes.
Okay, so axial radial type, that's the type that you install on your direct drive rotary table. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the axial radial type.
Of course, well, the axial radial type is composed of 5 parts.
Okay.
The retainer, the roller, the body, and the front and the rear case.
All right.
Here at Soul Power, we consider the body and the front and the rear case as a 3-piece structure. So the retainer hold the roller within these 3-piece structure.
Okay.
Right? So these parts, all of these 5 components, has to be done here in-house and at our CNC grinding machine department.
Right.
So we'll make sure that the geometric precision within 1 micrometer. Of course, that's include the flatness and the parallelism as well.
1 micrometer, so that's a 0.001 millimeter.
Absolutely.
Very tight tolerances.
Yeah, well, after we measure these critical dimensions, we apply them into the product ID as a one set. So each one of those have the same tolerance.
Okay.
And the gap between the ruler and the 3-piece structure is within -5 micrometer. So that means after the assembly, we compressed the ruler, each ruler, by 5 micrometers. We call that the interference assembly.
Interference assembly, okay.
Yes.
Now, how do you go on about increasing the rigidity if you want to reach even higher rigidity?
Well, okay, well, first of all, we need to understand one thing. Compressing generates the rigidity.
Okay.
So in order to increase the rigidity, we need to increase the interference as well. And as we all know, if we increase the rigidity, of course the temperature goes up during the turn of the DD rotary table, of course.
Right.
So back to your question, if we want to increase the rigidity, we have absolutely to reduce the speed. Yes, and that's how we measure the rigidity.
Okay, control the bearing rigidity.
Yes, yes.
And speaking of bearing rigidity, Sam, how do you, in practice, how do you inspect, how do you check the rigidity of your rotary tables?
Okay, let's see here, table number 5.
Okay.
One of our assembly line, we have a bearing rigidity test in one of our assembly lines. As you see and our audience see, it contains of the base, the arm, and the load.
All right.
And you see here, the axial radial bearing is assembled on the base. So throughout this load, the bearing will deform it, will change. So we use the gauge, yes, to see the value of the deformation, to measure the value of the deformation. Of course, in order to calculate the rigidity. Yes.
Okay. Now, axial radial bearings, that's the type that you use. Now, how many different models do you have?
Well, so far we have 5 now. The BRT 80, 120, 150, 200, and 260. The 20, the 80, and the 80, 120. It's the inner diameter of the bearing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you manufacture motors, you manufacture direct drive rotary tables, so I can buy rotary tables from you, but could I also get just the bearing?
Definitely not. No, it's not for sale. We don't sell them.
Why? Why is that?
Because, I mean, we spend a lot of effort and we invest heavily in manufacturing these components. So far, we're just gonna use them just for ourselves.